Minister, our offshore islands are not exempt from the housing crisis. In fact, the pressures on housing are distinctly felt by island communities considering the additional barriers they face. Access to services, the transportation of material, even construction workers and tradespeople travelling are all additional obstacles for the islands. What has been your engagement with the Minister of Housing on these issues and your plans to help develop housing for our island communities? Thank you.
And thank you, Deputy Kearns, for raising this. As you will be aware, the Government is committed to publishing an islands policy in line with the Programme for Government Commitment and commitments made in our rural future. And housing was one of the most pressing issues of concern raised by island communities during the public consultation process carried out by my department. While housing supply and affordability are key issues across the country, many of the factors affecting housing supply are amplified on the islands. These issues are also highlighted in a recent report carried out by a team from UCC entitled Housing and Sustaining Communities on the West Cork Islands. The Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage is represented on the Interdepartmental Committee, which has been overseeing the development of the islands policy. In addition, officials from my department have engaged bilaterally with the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage and with the relevant local authorities to agree commitments for the policy and its accompanying action plan. A further meeting is scheduled for later this week. Additionally, my department arranged a meeting with the authors of the UCC report on housing and sustaining communities on the West Cork Islands, which was also attended by the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage, and I believe this meeting was enlightening and beneficial for all parties, and the report's findings are being taken into consideration in the finalisation of the policy. So I'm pleased to say that the Islands policy is well advanced, and in that context I have a meeting scheduled with Minister Darragh O'Brien next week to discuss the commitments from his department, and I intend to present the policy to Government for approval in the coming weeks.
Thanks so much, Minister, for that update. And it's great to hear that you're familiar with the report, the Housing and Sustaining Communities on West Cork Islands, that was produced by UCC Research in conjunction with that West Cork Islands group. So you'd know that the report is unequivocal in its findings, and the lack of affordable, good quality housing is impacting on the ability of the islands to attract newcomers and to retain existing inhabitants and a next generation of islanders. It's clear from the detailed research that the future of island living is under threat because of that. Of particular concern is they're finding that young families are priced out of the existing island housing market. So if families with children can't settle on the islands, then the continuity and vibrancy of island life is obviously in doubt, and I think there's a need to ensure that the existing housing of older adults is modified so that older residents can remain in their homes for as long as possible in the islands as well. I'm really glad to hear that you have a meeting with the Minister for Housing next week, and I look forward to an update after that.
Thank you. Yeah, we're having, from my experience, the only way that you'll keep other departments on their toes is to get concrete commitments from them. And I think we're nearly there on this, and as I said, I am meeting with Minister O'Brien next week to discuss his department's actions. Housing, planning and water sewerage services are big issues on the islands, so we really do need strong commitments and strong actions from the Department of Housing. And as I said earlier, my own two departments have shown my commitment to the island communities. The special funding stream under CLAR for islands, that's new, ring-fence funding under the local improvement scheme, and that's something that's specifically for them. And I have to say too that the UCC report on sustainable community and housing on the West Cork Islands was very useful, and my officials have certainly gone through it in detail, and we'll be taking on board some of the recommendations that they have put forward as well.
Thanks, Minister. I'm really glad to hear that there's action being taken, and I hope it follows by the Department of Housing taking fairly lively action as a result of that. The report also has several recommendations on sustaining island life in West Cork, and I'm sure its findings are applicable to many other island communities. Those include a rural settlement scheme aimed specifically at promoting the West Cork Islands as places to live full-time, Improved broadband connectivity is obviously crucial, with opportunities to work remotely now, and regular subsidised ferry crossings. These are all actions we should be looking into. And when the West Cork Island Group presented this research to the AV room and to your department and yourself recently, they showed both the incredible challenges that they face, but also the strength and the vibrancy of the communities there. And island life is a really unique cultural way of life that needs to be valued and needs to be supported. And I'm really glad to hear you're taking actions. I just hope that they really result in concrete results for island communities.
Minister, to conclude.
Yeah, thank you. Well, even though the report was specific to the West Cork Islands, much of their findings are applicable to the majority of our islanders. For example, quality of existing housing stock, lack of availability of houses for sale, lack of availability of houses for rent, challenges obtaining plan and permission. I've spoken to Codal and Naharn. All the islands have these challenges, and that's why we really want to try and address some of them. Too many holiday homes, too many derelict houses. There's a lot of things in their report. But can I just say that, I have been to Bear Island, and I have visited there, and it's wonderful what they do out on that island. I've been to the glamping pod there. I've been to their community centre. Their broadband was an issue, and we've tried to work with them on a number of issues. Also, Sherkin Island got a huge investment from my department, and I think it's going to be a game changer for them in terms of what they can do in the community with the funding that has been allocated to them. And that's just 2 Cork Islands, and the other islands have got support. And can I just say that I'm committed to supporting them. I know that ports and harbours the ports are a big issue on the islands. It's a longer term to achieve all of those things. And as I said, the last Can Corla knows all about the islands, and she raises it with me regularly, so she keeps me on my toes as well.
You still can't be overtime.